Let me ask you something. Are you hitting success yet you know that there's another level? Or perhaps you're just getting started. You're trying to put all these pieces together, get your first deal, but something's holding you back. Or maybe you're going through a big change in your career and your life, but for some reason you just can't take the steps you need to know in order to move forward. Well, I've been having a lot of really incredible conversations with people who are in the exact same position as you are, and they've been able to make massive change happen very quickly. Whether that's doubling your income within just a few months, whether that's making some kind of big shift in your life and really unlocking that vision, or perhaps it's just getting clear on what that vision needs to be so that you can really take those steps. Of course, you guys know me, host of the Investor Mindset here, Stephen Pesavento, and high performance coach. I've been working with clients for years, seeing and helping them see major results. And I'd love to set up a call to discover if it's possible to be able to help you with some of those same things. If you are in a position where you want more and you're committed to taking some steps to get there, then I encourage you to head over to investormindset.com/discover and let me know a little bit more information about you. Set up a call and we'll jump on and we'll walk through a discovery process. Totally complimentary. You'll walk away with a lot of clarity. And if there's some way that I can help serve you, I'll let you know that too. So you can just head over to investormindset.com/discover. And I look forward to serving you.
This is the Investor Mindset Podcast.
There's some key beliefs there that you're really living by that I think the audience can really benefit from. And I really want to underline. And one of the things you're talking about is really this long-term view. You're looking at things from a perspective, and people who are high performance individuals are looking at things from a perspective that it takes patience, that we're really not looking at just winning this sprint, but we want to win the entire race, that we want to do the right things over and over again consistently. And that when we're coming from that perspective, everything else works better. The other thing I want to unpack that you said here was talking about this idea of optimal versus peak. And it's a beautiful explanation, because there's this idea of peak performance, but peak means you reach that top and that's it. Then you come right back down. But this idea of optimal, that you're consistently working in the best state for wherever you happen to be. It's giving yourself a little bit of grace. And I think for all of us overachievers and all of us driven people, sometimes we can fall into that perfectionist mindset, which is actually really detrimental. And it actually pulls us away from being able to do the things we want to do. And that's because we're trying to drive harder when our engine just really isn't in that place. Is that what you're saying?
It really resonates with me. And, I was, you and I were talking before we started recording today about, some things that I've been up to recently. And I was in Costa Rica with a mastermind that I'm involved in. And we actually had a Navy SEAL join us. His name is Rich DeBinney. He's a phenomenal individual, obviously someone who's served our country for over 20 years, a Navy SEAL commander. And he wrote a book called The Attributes. And what he's really all about is optimal performance. And he talks about peak performance. And I learned a lot from this discussion with him and from my time with him. But if you think about it, peak performance, as you were just mentioning, it's an apex. And, if you're an NFL football player, as an example, it's perfectly fine. And really it makes sense to prepare and train for peak performance, because you're going to peak at a certain time on a Sunday afternoon or a Sunday evening, week in, week out, right? And you play in between those lines. But life and business and real estate, as an example, is not really played between those type of lines. If we're, expecting to apex 24/7, well, then we're setting ourselves up for failure. And certainly there are times where we're called to be peak performers. But in most times, and taking this long-term view and having patience towards, long-term outcomes, we can focus on, well, how can I optimize my performance? And for me, it comes down to learning. It comes down to surrounding myself with other people like yourself, Stephen, who, not only challenge me to grow and become more, but perhaps their optimal performance is a little bit different than mine, right? And surrounding myself with a great team is highly important, because, man, the long-term compounding effect of collaboration is a beautiful thing. But of course, as you know, and as I know many of your listeners would really subscribe to the belief of, is that it starts with your mindset. It starts with your perspective. and how are you interacting with other people? How are you interacting with your day-to-day optimal performance? So to me, it's a very fascinating concept, and it's a very fascinating approach, because not only can you learn and grow more, but I've seen the results, compound themselves. So I love that we're talking about this.
Yeah, I think it's really a powerful reminder, because you don't want to be running your engine on redline all the time. You can push it, but you're going to end up damaging yourself and your ability to succeed if that is the way you're showing up. So let's put a definition out there on the table for everyone. High performance. I really see it as being exceptional and going beyond your limits, really performing above the norm, above the average. And so most of us who are listening to Investor Mindset, most of us who are interested in really creating not only a career in real estate, but who are investing passively to be able to create that kind of financial freedom, we're looking to go outside of the norm. We're looking to understand how we can perform in our life, in our finances, in our business, in our careers at a optimal level. And so I think it's really powerful to just understand that. And what you said, the idea of getting surrounded by other people who are also optimal performers, also high performers, people who are looking to continue growing. What does that end up doing by getting in community with people like that, Tyler?
Okay, so it's a great question. And so what happens is we have these things, and I know you know this, we have these things in our brain, and I've learned this from neuroscientists. We have these things called mirror neurons. And what happens is in our environment or other people that we spend our time with, we naturally want to regulate our behavior to be more like them. And this is it's a subconscious thing. But what happens is we start to behave in the way that the people we surround ourselves behave. We use the words they use. We have the same body language that they have. We act in the way that they act, or we ask questions, perhaps similar to the way that they ask. We may even have similar facial expressions to other people that are around us. And so what happens is, you can actually feel this if you really check in with, sort of a mindful approach, and you can feel how your own sort of internal dialogue or your own internal dial is either turned up or it's turned down based on the people that you're spending time with. And I can tell you that I've experienced this in both directions, right? I've spent time with people that are high performers, people that are pushing the bar, people that are doing big things. And there's times where that feels very uncomfortable, right? Because your internal dial is saying, you need to ramp this up, man. You need to be more like your surrounding environment. And so it's really interesting because the mirror neurons are something that's been given to us, through thousands, tens of thousands, millions of years of evolution, which has given us the ability of surrounding ourselves in a tribe that keeps us safe, that allows us to survive and thrive. And so this is the mechanism, but then you can also feel it on the opposite side. When you spend your time with people who are, more lower performers, or people that maybe aren't as motivated or inspired to create larger things or more substantial things in their life, you start to regulate in that direction as well. And so it's very important for us to take an inventory of who it is that we're spending our time with. And now one of the things too that's really important is, as I mentioned, sometimes I'll spend time with people who are maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 levels ahead of where I'm at in whatever category. It is uncomfortable. It is very uncomfortable because you start to feel like, well, wait a minute, am I enough? Am I doing enough? Am I being enough? Am I creating enough? And so I think there's a lot of usefulness in that feeling. I think we need to balance that in terms of, let's not beat ourselves up, but let's give ourselves the opportunity of allowing these mirror neurons to serve us, to create more, to allow us to ask bigger questions. How might I become the next version of myself? How might I, integrate some of the qualities or the characteristics of these people that are inspiring me or pushing me around me, instead of saying, well, I can't be like them, or I could never do what they do, or I'm not enough, or I haven't accomplished enough. So I think there's certainly a balance, but it's an amazing thing that happens. It's almost like osmosis in many ways. But once you start to become mindful of it, then you can integrate, then you can ask yourself bigger questions. Does that resonate with you, Stephen?
Oh, it's such a powerful concept here, because when you're getting around other people, you end up starting to believe what they believe. You start to follow in their footsteps. What they are acting and operating from starts to seem more normal. So if you're looking to step yourself up to another level, one of the best things you can do is get in proximity. I have a number of clients, and one of the first things that I recommend nearly everybody that I work with do is change your peer group. at least invite 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 other people into your group that are operating at a high level. Find a way to be surrounded by some of those people. Sometimes that comes from introductions from your coach, your mentor. Sometimes that comes from joining a mastermind group. Sometimes that comes from reaching into your network, into your community, and making an effort to be around some of those people. Because when you are, all of a sudden you start to believe what they believe, and you can start to step into their footsteps. Now, but you did bring up something that is really valid. And it's something that a lot of folks deal with. And so if you happen to be stepping up into a new level in your career, into your business, maybe you're starting to passive invest at a level you've never done before, and you're feeling a little uncomfortable, sometimes there can be some of that judgment, some of that self-worth, some of that feeling like, am I really qualified to go in this direction? And that's normal. But it's one of those moments that in feeling that, you need to identify that you're experiencing that, and then ask yourself a better set of questions, which is exactly what Tyler was offering us. What are some of those other questions that people can inquire internally, or how can they challenge some of those feelings or limiting beliefs when they are coming up, when they're dealing with a moment of change?
Well, I think I start with principles. And the first principle is get curious. Where is this coming from? Why am I thinking this way? What else could be true? What if the opposite were true? And getting hyper curious and just really looking at it as an investigator, I think is a really important key component. And that's really more of a principle than a specific question. But let's get curious. Where did this come from? What if this were not true? Is this belief limiting me, or is it serving me? And so that really comes down to questioning all beliefs. And questioning conventional wisdom, I think, is, first of all, a very powerful tool that we should all be implementing more and more into our daily routine, because every thought that we have is not something that we have to identify with. Is it serving me, or is it limiting me? And so the next question is, it's a type of question, but it's, how might I become more like this person, right? And so what happens is, and you don't even have to use that entire question, but you can use a question like, how might I be able to solve this problem? How might I, create the next version of myself? How might I blank, blank, blank? And what happens is you're starting to ask yourself a powerful question. And the more powerful question that you ask yourself, the more powerful answers you're going to get, the more creative results and resourcefulness will then, be surfaced. And so I think it's highly important to ask questions like that. And what happens is you're speaking to your subconscious mind, and you're saying, well, I might be able to create the next version of myself. I might be able to be more like this individual. I might be able to solve this problem. And so you're communicating to your subconscious mind that you might find the answer. And so what happens is this beautiful process of creativity and resourcefulness. And I think we all, every single individual, every single human being is naturally creative. They're naturally resourceful. They're naturally whole. And so none of us are broken. None of us have a lack of creativity. None of us have a lack of resourcefulness. Perhaps we just haven't tapped into enough curiosity like our natural selves were as children. So the question is, how curious can you get?
Well, thank you for joining for another incredible episode of the Investor Mindset. It's such a joy to be able to share these beliefs, these thoughts, these ways of living with each and every one of you guys, because I just know the power that it can make. And for some of you, for the select few of those people who are truly committed to going after their goals, the people who really believe that there's another level from where they're operating right now, the people who are ready to make change happen rapidly. And even if you're somebody who is stuck, who knows what you need to do, you know exactly the strategy, but for some reason you're not doing it, for those people, there's another option. There's another level that you can reach. And what I've noticed after coaching tons and tons of people through this process is that there's a simple formula. And when you can start to understand how to unlock those pieces within yourself, you'll start to feel more vibrant. You'll start to feel more energized. You'll start to make more money, and you'll start to enjoy the process through and through. So if you're somebody who's in a position, you're ready to make change happen, you're ready to invest in yourself, you really believe that the best investment, the truest ROI is investing in yourself because it continues to give back over and over again, then I invite you to schedule a call, share a little bit about yourself, and see how he might be able to help serve you with the investor mindset coaching. You can head right over to investormindset.com/discovery, set up a call, and if there's an opportunity to serve, I'll be right there with you. Thanks, and I look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you for listening to the Investor Mindset Podcast. If you like what you heard, make sure to rate, review, subscribe, and share with a friend. Head over to theinvestormindset.com to join the Insider Club, where we share tools and strategies from the top investors and entrepreneurs on how to take it to the next level.